On this week's episode, we discuss Daniel Bryan being stripped of the championship, Rollins holding his own, the chemistry between Ambrose and Reigns, Damien, Sandow, and more on this edition of Byte That. Welcome everybody to episode 42 of Byte That, the semi-somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is the world of professional wrestling. My name is Juan Velos. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and joining me as always first, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, we got Ryan McNulty.
What's going on, Juan? I'm excited for this show. Let's just get right into it.
I know a lot of controversial stuff. That's what we got to have our good buddy here, all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We got Keith Poshik. How you doing, Keith?
Juan, I'm the best around. And as long as I believe, nothing's ever gonna keep me... What was that?
Keith?
Oh, Keely! What? Keith?
Oh my God! Keith! Is this gunshots? Keith! Oh my God!
Did we lose audio? Do we hear anything? Is Keith? Are you there?
I'm checking.
Keith?
Keith?
I think I heard a bear.
And gunshots? Keith owns a gun, and he's in his room. Like you'd figure he'd notice a bear walking into his room or something.
I don't know, man. It's Canada. Anything can happen over there.
Maybe it's a thing. We'll keep everybody posted. Even though we did potentially listen into murder, we do want to thank to each and every one of you for tuning in, for listening to the show, and remind you can check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, where we have a brand new episode of The Cheap Seat. We have the weekly filler. We have a brand new thing called the Raw Reception, which is our immediate reaction to something that happened on Raw. Remember, you can check out the podcast every single Wednesday on iTunes and Stitcher, and Thursdays on YouTube. Now, of course, the big story that we were talking about last week is the fact that Daniel Bryan was to potentially be stripped away of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Now, before even Raw began, there was a breaking news story that his doctor actually did not medically clear him to compete. Therefore, we already knew before Raw was going to begin that he was going to be stripped of the championship. That is what happened, and I don't even want to talk about that first. I want to take it to you first, Ryan, because, I mean, the other person's a bear. What was your reaction to the fact that Daniel Bryan was not physically there to surrender the championship?
Well, first, in light of what happened to Keith, the show must go on. That is the Byte That way. So, the fact that Bryan wasn't there, that is unfortunate, but I think the reality is he needs to rest because clearly he's not going to be cleared within the next month. And on the other side of things, WWE needs to strip him of the title and move on as fast as possible. They've already strung this along for quite a while. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I have to agree with the decision.
No, absolutely. I agree with it too. I think it's bittersweet, as we talked about the potential. You even talked about that in your video on the YouTube channel, which is that it's unfortunate. You know, we've been working up to this storyline for so long, and we've seen him get the short end of the stick. I mean, talk about, I don't want to call it bad luck, but I don't know what to call it. You know,
bad luck is a good word.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Stone Crusher, you know, his father passing away, this being consistently injured. It's just been, it's been almost too much. And there's another report indicating that Vince McMahon himself is the person that is sort of going really behind the scenes, booking or scripting Daniel Bryan, if you will. Do you think that this does more harm than good, knowing you have this pressure? And then finding out that the doctor's like, yeah, you can't wrestle, man. You can't.
Well, I think that quote from, who said it? It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Do you remember? Yeah. What is that from? Like,
I have no
is it
idea
from
right
The Great
now.
Gatsby? I think it is. But, I mean, that's truly what it was, because so many great things had been happening for Daniel Bryan, and now so many bad things have kind of gone his way. Some at the same time as the good things, but now it's been leaning towards the bad, with him having to give up the championship. And what exactly were you trying to ask with the Vince McMahon thing? I'm not sure I was quite following you.
No, that I'm just saying that it's been so many things, that we keep hearing reported about the pressure being applied on Daniel Bryan. Then what bigger pressure than the owner of the company himself being the person to pressure you into the spotlight?
So he's the one sort of spearheading his path to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship going on. Yeah, I mean, so in a way, if Vince is his biggest supporter, it almost feels like you're letting them down. But it's Bryan's been wrestling for so long, a lot of wear and tear, injuries just happen, and recently they seem to be happening at the worst time for a lot of people. I mean, we can relate this, as we have before, to Dolph Ziggler. We can always say Bryan's in a much safer spot than Ziggler, but still it's eerily similar timing when they finally kind of get that huge break. An injury really stops them in their tracks.
Exactly, and even though we've talked about this, I do feel the need to bring it up again, that Daniel Bryan is in a really tough predicament, because even though I do believe I'm going to enjoy the chase again of, however they choose to do it, whether it's at the next pay-per-view, whether they try to stall it with the Seth Rollins situation. I mean, there are a lot of good possibilities, so if there's any moment for him to get injured to this extent, this is probably the best moment because there's enough things happening right now. But the question is, when he comes back, how neutered, for the lack of a better term, because, I mean, at this extent, they can't afford him to come back and then, hey, you're injured again. They have to figure out a safer method to deliver Bryan to us, but at the same time, his wrestling style is what got him over in the first place.
The goat may have to be neutered. Yeah, my voice almost went goat-like there. Yeah, I think one thing that the reports were talking about is a diving headbutt, that maybe he stops doing that because a lot of wrestlers have had neck issues because of it, and they were trying to attribute most of Daniel Bryan's neck problems to the diving headbutt because of the way you land. It puts a lot of strain on the neck. So I think that's one move that honestly he could cut, and I really don't think that hurts his style very much at all, because it's a nice little flashy move, but it's far from necessary in his moveset to really keep that explosive style that he has.
Now, the question is, the Money in the Bank ladder match will be for the championship now. Now, for me, honestly, it's bittersweet because I always love the fact that it's unpredictable. Like this person wins, that when is that person going to cash in? Is it going to be the same night or something? But now we know the winner is the winner of the match. Having said that, the runner, I guess you could say, for the briefcase at the moment was going to be Cesaro. Obviously, now the winner becomes the champion. So how much do you think this damages Cesaro's chance for his rise to stardom?
I think it definitely hurts it, because at the same time, there's also talks about a second ladder match still on the table. I mean, this is far from confirmed, but they could possibly throw in a second ladder match for an actual Money in the Bank briefcase, and it would have a lot of the younger talent, similar to how last year's Money in the Bank had a sort of up-and-coming ladder match and then the Made Stars ladder match for each briefcase. So this year, one would be for the championship, and the other one would have the younger stars for an actual Money in the Bank. But we don't know if that's going to happen, and Cesaro is locked into the one for the championship. So it absolutely hurts him because he doesn't get that almost guaranteed title win down the line, and his chances of winning at this month's Money in the Bank for the belt are pretty slim.
Exactly, because as much as I love Cesaro and I would love to see him champion, this is in no way the time to do it. He is still being developed. They're still trying to get him up to whatever status, because a lot of times they go towards like a more face route than the evil route. And then just having him win it right now, I think, would potentially damage him. We talked about, the fact that when Paige was handed the championship, maybe it was way too soon. I don't want that to happen to Cesaro.
As an aside, what do you think of Cesaro's power walk?
Honestly, I kind of love it in the way that it's nice that it's like, hey, look at me, I'm this cocky guy.
It's too much. I think it's way too much. It's just out of control.
If he was not with Paul Heyman, I would have said it's too much. But because you're with a guy of, the power that is Paul Heyman. I mean, when you break down Paul Heyman's character, he always over-exaggerates things. Look at the way he spoke on Raw. I mean, he's always like this. Nobody talks like that in real life. But in the world of wrestling, I think it's nice to overdo things like that. And he especially has the power to really back it up. Now, does that really get his character over? I think that's the better question about that. I don't know, because even though he's been aligned with Paul Heyman for a good while, I still don't think that as a character he's had much progress. Do you agree with that?
I kind of agree. He seems like... I felt like Cesaro was more important and felt like a bigger deal when he was sort of mixing it up with some of the guys at the top of the card, even if he wasn't winning. But he feels more like a mid-card guy as of late. When beforehand he sort of felt like a guy who was just on the cusp of the upper tier.
First of all, Paul Heyman, he's always amazing. I mean, there's nothing really bad I can say about this guy. And even though it was funny how they played off the fact that, maybe Brock Lesnar was going to come out on Raw and it turned out to be Cesaro. Yeah, at first it's funny, but then you think about it and you're like, they're using Cesaro as that punchline. You're not getting this, you're getting this. And even though he's getting booed, it wasn't necessarily Cesaro getting booed. It was simply just like, I wanted to see Brock Lesnar. I don't want to see this guy. So I'm really worried that this Paul Heyman guy thing, long term, is actually going to do a little bit more damage than good for him.
I'm not sure. It really remains to be seen. But like you said, we haven't seen too much progress yet. Obviously, we got to be patient and give it time, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have Heyman killing it on the mic every single week. So hopefully they just throw him. I think they just really need a big storyline that feels important. So down the line, like, that's what we need to see. Some sort of long-term important feud. He needs to mix it up with one of the top guys.
And I mean, what better way actually than to have Brock Lesnar be that guy? I mean, that's certainly another topic for another day, but because they keep bringing up Brock Lesnar, I'm not sure how they would really go about doing this, but hey, the guy's not doing anything. He beat The Undertaker's streak. This other guy's pretty hot right now. I think that would be a tremendous combination. Now, I do feel the need to immediately switch to something else because I think that we witnessed something magical on Raw. And I really do mean this. I am talking about the fact that it's been a week since Seth Rollins has officially turned on the Shield. It feels like way longer. Doesn't it feel like it happened like ages ago for something? Or is it just me?
In a way, yes, because I think we've all really been anticipating what Seth Rollins had to say and why he did it. And they sort of teased it on SmackDown, but didn't really reveal anything. So it did feel like a very long time, yeah.
Exactly, but I am glad that we got all our questions answered. Usually WWE likes to play these things off for weeks. And instead, in one Raw, we got both sides of the situation. I do want to talk about first regarding the remaining members of the Shield, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. How amazing were they on Raw? Seriously.
I thought it was a great segment, that but that promo that they had. And it was great. It was weird because it was nice and weird to see that they had so much more mic time. With one less person, it felt like they had infinitely more time for each of them to talk in a way. And I felt like we got so much character from these two that we haven't seen in a while.
Dean Ambrose, he turned up the crazy 211. Even Roman Reigns, that, I usually give him, a little bit of trouble for his mic skills. He was channeling like a completely different character. Was I wrong on that? It just seemed like they were like, well, Seth Rollins is gone, so now the spotlight is even more on you guys because it's only two people, sharing that mic time now. So you have to be more of an extravagant character, if you will. And it was nice that he was just smiling because I was worried that they were going to be just, oh, you turned on us, so now we're going to destroy you, generic good guy, bad guy. But instead, they're like, hey, we're going to have fun with the situation now. You know, we know your weaknesses. We know all this. And what better way than to just have them go out there. They talked for about 4 minutes. And man, that crowd ate it up. Like, they actually stood up at the end of that promo if you look back at the video. I mean, how often does that happen? No match. The segment alone, that promo alone, got them over, and it cleared up all the things.
Absolutely. I mean, it's nice to see that even though it's not the complete Shield anymore, that you still feel that the chemistry's there. I mean, these guys have been working together for so long. And even though they were, in a way, they were kind of playing into the, like, we're going to get revenge on you type of thing, but they did it in their own way, and
exactly.
It felt real, the intensity, because they have been such a tight unit for so long that you actually really want them to get revenge. It's not this thing that's just been thrown together. It's a thing we've followed for so long, and now we want to see them get the better of Seth Rollins.
How much of that was scripted, especially Dean Ambrose's part, because it felt so natural. Because they could have gone, once again, the cheap route of, hey, we should have known better than to trust you. You know, they could have gone that route, but instead he was like, oh, there's this cancer in the Shield. It's like he was offended as a family. You know, it's like, you don't turn on the guys. And it was cool because, I'll admit it, I felt the vibe, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but I almost felt like a Scott Hall, Kevin Nash type vibe between Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. Like, they seemed like buds. They didn't seem like, oh, the Shield is now a tag team. It seemed like two guys that are united for one cause, and that cause right now is to get rid of Seth Rollins.
I definitely felt a chemistry there between them that you didn't really know existed before, because you felt like Reigns and Ambrose were always the two that were never going to get along. So that's why it's weird to see that they are sort of brought together and seem to be closer than ever and are working together against, you know, Seth Rollins. So I really did like the pairing. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash vibe. I don't know if I didn't necessarily feel that myself, but it's certainly definitely warranted, or, you know, justified.
Exactly. And to conclude this portion, I do want to point out that even though we talk about the Shield, I don't know how many episodes, I believe that at every episode we dedicate a good 20, 30 minutes. I'll keep saying it. I don't know when's the next time we're going to get something like this. The Nexus, almost no other faction or group has been able to stay relevant. And if anything, they're even more relevant now, because that was always the worry. Oh, well, Seth Rollins left the wagon, so now the wheels are just going to fall apart. If anything, this actually benefited all three men. You saw more character development in Dean Ambrose, which just, I watched that promo immediately after Raw ended. I don't remember the last time I did that. I went to the YouTube channel and I saw it again. Why? Because it was so powerful. It felt personal, but it didn't feel forced. And I think that the Shield is the only group that combination of individuals that can make that happen for years to come. And you know, we got NWO, we got DX, we got Evolution. The Shield is the next part of that elite group of stables that will forever be brought up.
I completely agree. I mean, in their original form, they went out on top. Aside from maybe a slight minor lull in their run last year, I would say that they had about as perfect as a run that a stable could have. So obviously, I think they absolutely deserve to be in that upper tier of greatest factions ever. And it's pretty safe to say, even being this close removed from their, you know, initial breakup.
Exactly. It's great because, as you mentioned, it ended. So it wasn't that thing where, you know, like the NWO, where it lasted for years until people didn't care. It's like the Shield ended at their best. So now it's like the whole like, oh, what if this happened? Oh, what if they had gone that route? Guess what? You'll never find out, but you can always go back and see just how amazing these guys are. And, okay, so this is the part where I usually do some sort of segue. I'm not sure how this is going to work, Ryan. I'm just going to do it. It's time for this week's Tweet of the Week. Okay, so during that tweet of the week, of course, thank you, Bear, for that somewhat maybe beautiful tweet of the week. We do have a small update on Keith, Ryan. I don't know if you want to hear about it.
Absolutely, of course. How could I not be concerned?
So Keith is in the hospital right now, right? He did get mauled by a bear. He is in one piece. I think he's missing an eye or something, but he will be back in around 3 to 4 weeks' time, hopefully. Conveniently, I already know that date more or less, but regardless, you can send us your tweets. Send us with hashtag GetWellKeith. You know, we will keep him posted. We will send them your postcards and keep him
I gotta get
updated.
me some of that Canadian healthcare. They work quick.
A near death, 4 weeks. Wrestling logic applied to Byte that right now. It's happening. But before we do go on any further, we do want to give you a brief update on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. The latest edition of the Cheap Seat went live. I am talking about chair shots to the head. Why? Because a lot of people, you know, I'll go to the social medias and see that people want those to come back. And I always get upset because it's like, yeah, they look kind of cool back then, but as you grow up, as you analyze things, you realize that maybe somewhat maybe they weren't the best thing. So check that out and leave a comment with your opinion, whether you agree or disagree. It's always awesome. Check out the Raw reception, which Ryan posted. Remember, the podcast is available every single Thursday. And on Saturday, Ryan will be doing another edition of the Weekly Filler, which hopefully, because we don't know as of this, he will have some more information about the latest installment of the wrestling video game franchise, WWE 2K, which is at E3. Hopefully, we'll know just a little bit more. But before going into that, I do need to step back because we talked about the remaining members of the Shield. Now let's go back to the other guy. Seth Rollins also got his time, which, by the way, I need to make a little thing that annoyed me. I don't know if you noticed this, but does WWE not buy chairs for their talent while they're watching television? It was an ongoing theme. We had Cody Rhodes, we had The Shield at one point, we had Seth Rollins. I'm like, first of all, is there only one TV backstage? And second, it's like, you know, these people are traveling all year. Give them a chair.
You know, it's just one of those wrestling things because, you know, they want to have the TV at a good height and they don't want to have, I don't know, it just works. It's an easy camera shot and we just have to deal with it, even though it looks really awkward and everyone always has to watch at a 45-degree angle. Because if they were sitting down in a chair, you wouldn't be able to get that good camera shot. I don't know. It's blame the WWE cinematographer, whoever that is. We can look it up and send him a tweet, ask him why, and maybe he'll give us a good answer.
No, and we get why, but this episode was just all over the place. We cut to that like 4 or 5 times.
Did you see the picture somebody made of, I think it was Cody Rhodes watching Paige watching somebody else? They did, you know, every screen was someone else watching another screen.
Could you tweet that after the show? I haven't seen it.
I will have to find it. I believe I actually did retweet it on our Twitter, but I'll do it again just for kicks.
At Byte That Cast. Yeah, we got to check that out. But so one of the guys that was there was Seth Rollins watching the Shield's promo then.
Oh, Seth Rollins. That was the third one.
So he came out with this generic entrance music. He is no longer in the Shield gear. He came out wearing a suit, you know, because he's part of the Authority or something now. And it was nice because I was worried that Triple H was always going to be by his side, but instead we got this sit-down interview, you know, just Seth Rollins, his own spotlight. And I wanted to get your initial reaction. Did you buy into this brand new face of Seth Rollins?
First question to you, actually, is the theme that he used, was that his NXT theme? Do you know?
No, somebody wrote that it's like a generic theme that's on a WWE game or something. I could be wrong on that, but I'm assuming it's like a temporary thing. It's very similar, however. It's very similar to his last NXT theme.
All right, I was just curious on that because I know he had obviously his NXT run. But going into the segment, the sit-down interview with Michael Cole, in my opinion, I did buy into it. And I was really impressed with Seth Rollins. I thought he stole the show this week on Raw. I was really impressed with his mic work. I think this is, without a doubt, the best promo he has done since coming to WWE. And I was loving it. I think he was getting plenty of heat. Seth Rollins is a big deal now. And I think this turn was really well executed. And like you said, I think it made a world of difference that he was out there on his own. He didn't have Triple H by his side, taking any of the spotlight away. It was all on him, and he got a big reaction, and I thought it was great.
And I thought that the WWE did it perfectly because, of course, we did get a tease that he would reveal his actions on SmackDown, but he came out in the Shield gear like that. He was still, WWE Shield Seth Rollins. So it was nice that they did that change on Raw because as Chris Jericho, Bully Ray, multiple wrestlers have mentioned, whenever your character turns, you should always change something about you. Your appearance, just something to let you know, like, hey, this change is permanent. This is the next phase. It just further
goes into our nothing happens on SmackDown argument.
Absolutely. And it's sad because that was the first thing we thought of. It's like, well, something's going to happen on SmackDown, which means it's inevitably going to happen again on Raw, which is unfortunate. But I mean, the live show experience is always tremendous. So I will agree 100% in memory of Keith, who is kind of alive, I guess. Seth Rollins to me was the worst guy when the Shield originally came in. I mean, I would make fun of how he spoke during their backstage promos when they still held the camera and all that.
Worst guy is a little mean.
No, I will agree.
On the mic, I think Roman Reigns was the worst, but he was protected in a way that he didn't talk a lot.
Exactly, but that was the thing. They protected him because they knew it's like, okay, so maybe this guy is not a convincing bad guy. But with Seth Rollins, it seemed too much like, okay, so you're the cool bad guy here, and you gotta sound angry.
He made the most progress on his mic work, without a doubt.
I was worried that once he turned, they had to fall back to Triple H to sell the character. And after all, I'm like, you know what? All three members are as solid as ever. I am looking forward to this feud. I'm looking forward to the fact that Roman Reigns said, we're coming for you, and then we're coming for Triple H. And then another wrestling reference I'll avoid saying here. But it's just so nice that the Shield, even when broken up, is still the best damn thing on Raw. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty safe to say that these guys, as we all thought, are going to be carrying the show for a long time to come, for years to come. And they could potentially be, in the next 5 years, be the three top guys in the company all on their own, doing their own thing. So, I mean, that would be a really cool sight to see in a couple of years.
Exactly. And it's funny because when this was first pitched as, there's going to be a leak in the Shield, everybody expected, Dean Ambrose to be the breakout guy. But I don't think anybody believed, ironically enough, in the fact that Seth Rollins was going to be the bad guy of the three. And guess what? He works as the bad guy, and Dean Ambrose, the people are like, oh no, he is the natural heel. He can be a better babyface. Once again, when you have people give you a standing ovation for a promo, not the match, not anything, I mean, just your character progression, that's like, okay, I'm sold. So you have your next Stone Cold right there. You have your next anti-hero. And guess what? People buy into him. And in many ways, it's good that Roman Reigns is still not talking that much because they're savoring it. They're like, okay, so we got Seth and Ambrose doing most of the talking. Once that started to go sour, then that's when you really unleash Roman Reigns to his hopeful full potential.
Absolutely. I mean, and Roman Reigns is another guy. I think Seth Rollins has probably improved more on the mic, but Reigns has come a long way too, and he's talking more and more, and I think he's doing really well. I mean, like I said, these guys all have bright futures, and they're all young too. None of them, I don't think any of them are even 30 yet, or maybe they are or maybe they are at just 30. But I'm pretty sure they're all in their late 20s, so it's ridiculous that how much potential and time we can have with these guys.
Exactly, because to conclude, you could basically say WWE is happy that they have three young, gifted talent that they can squeeze the juice out of for at least a decade. That's pretty freaking good. That is a damn good job.
They have three guys that they can keep and build their entire company around these three guys. Because they have the appeal. I mean, we have the whole thing on Tumblr where you see all the fangirls are all over the Shield, right? But if you think about it though, everybody sort of has their favorite. Girls and guys, maybe in a different way, but everybody sort of has their favorite member because they sort of have, each one has their own appeal to them, their own style of wrestling, their own type of charisma. So it really is like these guys are sort of, could be this three pillars of WWE as the top three stars.
I think you hit the point perfectly. It's that usually when you have a tag team or a faction, they're all usually pretty similar. So when they break up, you're like, there's
a Shawn Michaels and a Marty Jannetty.
Exactly.
This is like a 3-man stable with all Shawn Michaels in it. or it's like a 3-man stable of The Rock, Roddy Piper, and Jeff Hardy.
Oof. Whoa. Rock. Whoa. I'm just having a hard time figuring that out.
That's a very weird stable.
Equal ratings, man. That would be something. Switching gears to something else that is certainly something, for lack of a better term. I'll just say his name, and I want to get your immediate reaction. Damien Sandow.
I love the guy, and I feel for him every time he comes out dressed as something ridiculous. He's become he's sort of the new Heath Slater in a way. And Heath Slater is in a little bit of a better spot.
What are they trying to do? Because they first had him cut that quote-unquote pipe bomb at one of the pay-per-view events, but then that face died. So then he's like the Charlie Haas, Heath Slater guy where every week he's doing something new, but it's like, where is this going? At first I thought that they were doing the whole, like Dolph Ziggler, get your Zack Ryder, get Sandow, get all these frustrated guys into a group, but that doesn't seem to be it. So aside from essentially humiliating the guy, because I get it, because people are going to be saying this is pro wrestling, this is part of the act, it is a job that they have, but it just seems like they're humiliating the guy.
I feel terrible for him. I mean, the guy's got so much talent and he had such a great character, and it's like, did the guy do something backstage? Like, who did he piss off? That's what I want to know, because what is this accomplishing? They're just making a fool out of him. I don't think anyone's super entertained by this. Is anyone really amused by this? They can't wait to see what he does every week? Or do they just sit there and feel embarrassed for the guy that he has to come out there and do that? I mean, I give him so much props for selling it 100%. He's doing all the ballet moves in that suit. And, he's going with it because he's trying to show that no matter what they throw at him, he's going to make it as entertaining as he possibly can. And I give him all the credit in the world for that.
Exactly. At least he's making the most out of it. Like he's definitely buying into whatever character they have right now. And with your question, everybody listening, I would legitimately like to know, are you enjoying this? I mean, to each his own. It's not, there's no right or wrong here, but send us a tweet or a like on Facebook, write something there at Byte That Cast. I would actually like to know, do you enjoy Sandow's current character where he does something a little different every week? And another character that's similar in the situation, Goldust is going through a tag team crisis, if you will, and are you feeling anything out of this, or does it feel like they're just really stretching this to as long as they can?
I really don't know where they're going with this. It's kind of doesn't make any sense to give him a new partner every week and have him lose every week and expect it to help. Because if you have a new partner every single week, how are you supposed to be a good team? You have that only makes it more frustrating to build a chemistry with a partner. I'm talking in a kayfabe sense, of course. You would think if you have a new partner every week, how can you ever find the rhythm to actually be good? A true test of a team would need a couple matches. So it doesn't make any logical sense. And obviously we see that it's just meant to sort of, bring this feud between Cody and Goldust to a certain breaking point.
No, and it's not even the fact that they give him a tag team partner every week. It's the selection. They choose all these guys that have, for the past couple of months, done nothing. They are completely irrelevant characters. You know, R-Truth, who, sad to say, was one of the top heels at one point, and I loved that heel run. They completely killed him off. He is a completely irrelevant character. You know, you have all these guys, so it's like, I don't get it. Is the focus on Goldust? The way that I see it right now is that Cody Rhodes is still going to end up turning heel. What he's going to do is that he's going to see that maybe, oh, guess what? I wasn't the weak link. You are. Doesn't matter who they put you with in a tag team, you still come out the loser. Do you see that as the scenario?
I think that is a good point, and I totally agree that it seems like Cody's going to be the one who ends up being the heel. I think people just at this point just love Goldust and they don't want to hate him. But yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like so much of it is lost. There was a point where they were the hottest, like one of the hottest things going on the show.
Yeah.
And it's just, they waited way too long. They kept them irrelevant for too long. And now they're trying to do this. And people just aren't as interested.
I remember we would talk. It's like, hey, we don't know what match to put. You send Cody Rhodes and Goldust out there with anyone, and they're going to have an awesome match.
That's true. I remember that conversation.
Yeah, we've gone from that to not only is it an irrelevant tag team partner, guess what happens after they lost? They just go to the next segment. Like they don't make it seem important. And guess what? As you mentioned, it's grown so cold that the live crowd doesn't really react to the situation that's going on. They don't care about the storyline. So me as a fan watching on TV, this is in kayfabe term, in whatever term you want to talk about. When you do this every week and I just see a dead crowd, that turns me into a dead crowd. I'm just like, you know what? I agree with them.
This sort of,
I agree with that.
This sort of makes me think. I mean, we're looking at the inevitable breakup of, Cody Rhodes and Goldust, and we just saw the breakup of the Shield. Is it effective anymore to do the slow burn breakup because everybody knows it's coming, or is it all about just doing the shocking surprise breakup now because that creates far more intrigue, and obviously the crowd's invested in them when they're together, and then this immediate breakup, they're invested in the breakup storyline too. So is there even an effective way anymore to do the slow burn?
I think there's absolutely a way to do it. The Shield was almost going to do it at one point. You know, obviously they went back on that, and then we got that. Now with this, it's like they weren't the main focus on Raw. You know, they were a little while ago. We're forgetting that they were involved with the Authority at one point. That's how high up they were. That's the thing that upsets me. Like, they were all the way up there, and now you're waiting to when, they're not tag team champions. They're not feuding with the Shield. They're not feuding. They're not doing anything that would keep your interest, as the primary staple of the show. And now you choose to do that. So it's like, it doesn't matter if it's one thing to another week where they just magically break up, or it's a slow burn. I, at least, as a fan, do not care how they do it. It's too little too late for me. I just hope that whatever they want to do, get it over with so we can move on.
I agree. I think you pretty much nailed it there. It's looking like I don't know if you think they'll fight at Money in the Bank, or are they going to save this for SummerSlam? I don't know if people can hang on that long, though, to be honest.
Honestly, I see almost neither option. I see just, stretching it out, especially with this whole Bry situation, a lot of stuff. It's just like, can we fit this anywhere? Wherever we can fit that, let's put that match there. I think they're making it that important.
It really upsets me because Cody is just so good on the JBL and Cole show. And if he could just find a way to bring that to Raw, that is a whole new element for him, because he's the best. Him and Wade Barrett are the best thing on that show, without a doubt.
Absolutely. I think it's really awesome, man. I mean, well, we'll see what happens. He was written off the JBL and Cole show, which is what leads me to believe that they will turn him sooner rather than later. But as everything in the world of wrestling, we'll have to wait to find out. Now, this is the point where I actually change things up a little bit. We talk about wrestling every week, right, Ryan?
We do.
But another thing that we've always liked are video games. And this week we have E3 taking place. We have seen Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, everybody's been announcing stuff all over the place. One thing that is wrestling related, although there are other very cool things that happened, is that confirmed WWE 2K15 is at E3 and will be featured in some way, shape, or form. Just before we started the show, we saw a poster revealed that confirms John Cena, Hulk Hogan, Bray Wyatt, and I actually forgot the fourth guy. Cesaro. Okay, yeah. Yes, Cesaro. The 4 men were confirmed. Even right now, as we're recording, we may have other stuff, breaking news right now. We've refreshed, no luck right now. I do want to ask you, Ryan, now that we know that this is a thing, it's coming out this year, what will, and we've talked about this, but now that we're getting closer, what do you need? One thing, just that one thing that makes you go, okay, I'm sold. I'm buying this new one.
Well, I had heard previous news about a career mode, the revitalization of the career mode, and that alone will sell me on the game. Universe mode just doesn't cut it. It's too repetitive, doesn't have that feel of truly building a guy up. And if they just have a career mode, you start in NXT, it actually takes a long time to get to the top of the card, and you get the World Championship. That's what I want in a game. If it has a good career mode, I'm sold.
That whole NXT thing seems like a good idea. What I'm worried, though, is that it just becomes like, hey, we're just putting a bunch of matches for the sake of extending this. I think that the biggest problem that I've had with the wrestling games is that they're treated as fighting games, where it's just like, oh, do you want to do 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 or whatever the case? Wrestling also has a very big emotional investment, and the games have never really been able to capture that. Now, I know it's not exactly easy, but don't you agree that somehow needs to be part of the experience?
Yes, and do you mean in a way with the storylines and characters, or how do you mean, if you could elaborate?
No, like, for example, okay, so say the storyline in the game, right? Like, you go over NXT and at some point you're facing Triple H or something. In real life, when that happens, the match will start slow, like Triple H being all cocky or something. In the game, you're just going to run to your opponent and start kicking him until somebody wins. And that's the thing where I'm like, oh, it takes me away from the story. Like, I know you and I play matches online, and we actually talk about each other like we're good workers. Why? Because we don't have that running grapple match. We'll try to actually, like, start the match slow. We won't abuse moves because we want to be able to recreate what we see on television in the games, but there's very little incentive to do that.
I almost think of something where, and I don't know how people would feel about this because it's sort of limiting but helps with a match pace, is if there was sort of this in-game pace or momentum meter where it's only at certain points of a match do you hit certain moves. So the start of the match, the moves you hit are more attuned to what you see at the beginning of a match. Whereas once you get to a hot point in the match, that's when you can hit your sort of, your comeback sequence or whatever. But that takes a lot of re-engineering and all that. And also it would kind of hurt people who just want to do a certain move at a certain time.
I think it would just help because we've had the stamina meter. That doesn't work. What would be nice is to have either the standard mode, traditional mode, or add like a simulation mode, which is like you said, you can slide the meter. So it's like, so from the very beginning of the match, if you have a power bomb, you can do it. Or you can have like a build up. So as the match progresses, you unlock more damaging moves or something. So it's like you keep working up because I got to think, okay, so I got to keep my guy healthy so he can hit this move at this point.
If you started landing a few punches, then you hit him with the suplex, and you're gaining more. It's like a momentum meter. You can only hit a power bomb when you have a lot of momentum. And if someone cuts you off, then you lose some momentum. Something like that. Some sort of mechanic with not stamina, but momentum, how you're performing in the match, not necessarily how much damage you're taking or how much you're running around.
I believe some Japanese wrestling game actually does something like that. If somebody knows, please hit me up with a tweet at ByteThatCast because I know I have read about this, but obviously, we're not as exposed to those games. Those games don't really come out our way, so unless we know about them, we can't really play it. But do you guys think it's a good idea? I think it is. I think it would be an awesome experience. But Well, yeah, we'll find out. So maybe on the weekly filler, Ryan, you can tell us a little bit more about the brand new stuff that we have about the game. And depending on if it's a lot of information or not, we'll be talking about WWE 2K15 next week. So before we end the show, a friend of the show, Roach McPoach, sends us awesome questions. And he sends us this one, which really got my noggin going, Ryan. You ready for it?
Maybe I should go first, because yours are probably going to be better than mine, but read the question.
That I shall. The question is, build your perfect... Well, it's not really a question, actually. It's just telling us to do something.
It's a command.
Yes, we have to do this. Build your perfect 3 or 4 man stable, past or present. Every wrestler alive... every wrestler is available. Very different. Every wrestler is available.
Okay.
Hashtag Roach equals ratings. Hashtag Byte that rules.
Aw. And yes, I do agree. Roach McPoach equals ratings. So here are my stables. My first stable. And maybe you've heard this before. How about The Rock, Roddy Piper, and Jeff Hardy? No.
I heard about that at some point.
They're called The Armor. No, but then my other stable, maybe this isn't creative, but I thought that this stable would be called, we had the Mega Powers. These are the Overpowers. And that would be if you had Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and John Cena, and The Rock, all in a team. So maybe that's 5 guys, but it would obviously be one of the most overpowered teams in wrestling history, because you got to take the faces of all the eras and combine them into one overpowered tag team or stable.
Can I suggest a new name for that stable?
All right, yeah. What do you got?
Just one thing. Hashtag ratings. That's it.
Yes.
You got any others? Is that it?
Those were, those are the only ones I could think of. Maybe I thought of
the Jeff Hardy thing was pretty good. I'm proud of you. You did good. You did good.
Well, there was also another team I was thinking of where you combined all the stereotypes or something, or all the poor stereotypes. If you had like Akeem the African Dream with Kerwin White and Muhammad Hassan or something, where it's called "We're Not Who You Think We Are."
Wow. Okay, so the name of that team would be hashtag not ratings.
All right, now I'm done.
Okay, so do you want me to start from less serious to serious? Where do you want me to start?
Start with serious and go progressively less serious.
Okay, so I'm starting off with this one. Okay, so the stable, because it's the only name I could figure out, is called The Last Line. It is led by the ECW serious version Wrestling Machine Kurt Angle. He's the head of the group. And then following him is early WWE, so I guess you could say ECW SmackDown, CM Punk. So not so much bag under the eyes, he still loves wrestling. And then to complement that, you have early WWE Eddie Guerrero. That is the last line. Now, why are they called the last line? 3 top-of-the-line athletes that just absolutely are obsessed with professional wrestling, and they're sort of the last line between now everything's sports entertainment. So we're like the last, selected group that care about. We've gone through all these things, and Kurt Angle is led Kurt Angle's been in both sports entertainment, in the fun milk truck part, but he's also had the serious part. So that's why he's the leader, because he's had the most experience in that spotlight.
Was CM Punk in WWE when Eddie Guerrero was there, or did he debut after he died? I
mean, I remember when they did the whole tribute to Eddie, he was interviewed on Raw. He was there for a very short amount of time or something. I mean, obviously they wrestled each other in the independents when Eddie Guerrero was fired from the WWE and all that. But it would have been awesome to see them in the WWE.
Yeah, just a gem of a match that you thought never happened. CM Punk did fight Eddie Guerrero.
Exactly. Look that up with Rey Mysterio also.
There was 2 matches. A triple threat. Yeah. So there's a match you never thought happened, and it happened.
Exactly, sir. Not sure which category this fits in. I got the Smarky Smart Connection, featuring Dean Ambrose, CM Punk, and the heel John Cena. managed by Paul Heyman, wearing an El Generico t-shirt, wearing a Chuck Taylor t-shirt, holding a grenade.
Where's Daniel Bryan in this?
You don't even need Daniel Bryan, man. It's like, you got to keep the focus on those three guys. And what happens is, so he's wearing an El Generico shirt, right? Mm-hmm. So Sami Zayn is feuding with him. He gets his face burned at some point during the storyline, suffers from amnesia, and then he's so afraid of people looking at him that he is forced to wear a mask, and then they feud with Evolution and beat them in an Armageddon Hell in a Cell match. I thought very long.
Who was
and
the
hard
first
about
person
this.
in the stable?
Dean Ambrose.
Oh, so would it be... No, it would be... I'm sorry. It would be Jon Moxley, Phil Brooks, and the heel John Cena.
And the prototype.
Yeah, the prototype. Oh my god. And John Cena comes out. Man. John Cena comes out with a baby goat.
And Bo Buchanan somewhere there in the corner. So my third group, we have the Newer Brood. Because we had the Brood, we had the New Brood, now we have the Newer Brood, led by Gangrel, featuring The Ascension and Corey Graves.
Wow, I mean, that's almost a plausible team right there. And why is that your least serious one? How is this less serious than the Smart Connection? All right, keep it rolling.
Oh, I'm not done yet. Okay, so this one I am so proud of and so sad it'll never happen. This stable is called The Four Seasons, okay?
All right.
So we're already starting off at the very bottom with the names. It's led by the talented individuals, and they're actually talented. I'm not being sarcastic with this part. Cole Cabana, Raven, Simon Dean, and Scott Steiner.
Now explain the name.
Four Seasons, because each guy is like completely different. You have Cole Cabana with the comedy part, Raven with the what the hell, you're crazy. Then Simon Dean is like the motivator, and then Scott Steiner, who is Scott Steiner. So a
How
better
is
way...
Scott Steiner not the comedy part? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so there are genres, and then there's Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit into genres. He fits into his own thing.
When you said the Four Seasons, I thought they were all going to be, like, themed by... the actual seasons, like Glacier was gonna be winter or something, and you had a summer. Was Summer Rae? I guess who's fall and
you could actually have a diva when you could have Winter playing the role of Winter. Occasionally, Virtual in Impact was called Winter. You could have Summer in Summer.
Fall and Spring. Do we have a Spring? I don't know. Sunny. I guess Sunny could be Spring.
Just look for two female wrestlers that wrestled at Slamboree and Fall.